Hey folks, thanks for coming over to Capitalism for Good. This is a part of a larger project where I am on a mission to interview 100 business leaders about the positive impact that they have on their internal and external communities. It is through these interviews that we will dig into how we can use the ways in which we make and spend our dollars in order to benefit the greater good. Folks, today we have Dan Gomer. He is hold on, let me pull this up so that I could get his title right. He is the real estate team lead of Realty Partners. That is his team in eXp, which is a real estate company. And I made a point to pull up his title here because, like you will hear us talk about during this interview, yes, he is a real estate leader and kind of a mogul in his own way, but he is so much more than that. I would say, kind of as someone kind of reflecting back after the things that we talked about, is just like a general, almost like life coach might be a better term or something like that. He kind of talks about his whole experience. He actually is a coach for adults, was a coach for kids, was a teacher in middle school for a while, also built fences, all sorts of things. He is yet another lifelong learner in the quest of kind of finding so many lifelong learners, kind of hidden behind this Capitalism for Good project, and it just full of so many things. And I challenge you, I dare you to watch this or listen to this and not have a smile on your face. Like, he's just positive and encouraging, and I can see how the folks that he is interacting with, this community that he's building, I can see why people follow and listen to him. He's another person who truly believes that we should leave this place better than we found it, which again is like just after my own heart and my own brain here, and I am so excited about it. If you are interested in anything that we talk about, anything that he does, kind of following him, he does a little kind of call out to build his team. He has a specific kinship with other teachers that want to transition into real estate, anything like that. Remember, there are links to all the things that we talk about in show notes, and I will just let you listen to him because he's going to say things so much more eloquently than I am. So enjoy. Starting at square one, wherever the beginning is to you. So, there's like no time limit. I want this to be like loosey goosey. So get as detailed
Okay.
as you want with it.
All right. Well, I was born on April 15th, 19. No. Okay. So yeah, my vision, ever since I was in middle school was to be a teacher. That was, I don't know why, that just landed with me and it stuck. And so my plan was always through middle school and high school is I was going to go to University of Northern Colorado. It's a very good teaching school, and I'm going to get my teaching degree and become a teacher. And so that's what I did. Went to college, got my certification in elementary education, earth science degree, and was supposed to teach fifth grade science or fifth grade, and didn't get a single interview, which was shocking to me. So I kind of got just backdoored into middle school science, and so that's what I ended up teaching for 7 years and coached high school basketball and did all that, and just realized that I felt like a big fish in a small pond. And I really had a lot of creativity and things that I wanted to do, and was just finding that public education wasn't a good fit for me. So I left public education, got into real estate, and started doing fix and flips, and quickly realized I don't know jack about business. I don't know jack about communication. I don't know jack about negotiation or any of this stuff. And so
Yeah.
I was just like drowning. And learned a lot of very valuable lessons. So went to the school of hard knocks for about 4 years and lost a bunch of money and, blah, blah, blah. And, but I always knew throughout that journey that my vision and my goal was to always get back to teaching. And so I just kind of assumed that at one point I would start a team. And so I was doing fix and flips for the first 4 years, kind of getting my teeth kicked in. Finally, I realized, you know what, I'm just going to help other people buy and sell. It's much more low risk. And so kind of focused on that and very slowly built up a successful real estate business. And eventually got to a point where I felt confident enough that I could bring on some people to, start a team. And actually, one of the very first people that I ever brought on is still on my team, and he's one of our top producing agents at this point. So that's pretty cool. But starting a real estate team was really my opportunity to be able to teach again, but to do it on my own terms. Public education is there's lots of rules, there's lots of stuff that happens. Now I get to work with um, you know, for the most part, adults.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like they're not, but I've got a great team, and it's a different feel, So what I get to do now, what I love about what I get to do now is not only do I get to teach, but I see the vehicle of real estate as an exceptionally powerful
Mm.
tool to get people from point A to point B in lots of different facets of life. I look at my journey from when I started real estate to where I am right now. It completely changed my life. It completely changed it forced me to get better as a human being, and it forced me to get better as a business owner, and all of these things. And so I want to create that for other people. I want to
Yeah.
see other people make their lives better by leveraging the same vehicle that is real estate. And so that's really what my vision is now with this group is making people's lives better, improving their lives through the vehicle of real estate, both for my clientele and for people who are on the team. And now I get to teach people how to stand on their own 2 feet, rather than just teaching them a skill. Here's how you sell a house. That's you can teach anybody that, but it's about getting people to see their own potential and actually leverage that to be the best version of themselves. Like that's what I'm really passionate about.
Yeah. What has that been like, especially if you knew from middle school? I mean, that's young. You knew from middle school that you were interested in teaching, but you kind of at first were following like what's the typical way? Like if you're interested in teaching, then you become a teacher at a school for kids. Now as adults, we're like, oh, we learn in all of these other aspects of our lives. Teachers can look so different in so many different ways. But like, what has that been like kind of changing your mindset from like, oh, there's this cookie cutter way, this is what you end at high school, you go to college, you get a teaching degree, and then you teach kids and you follow that pathway. And there are all of these rules where you just, I mean, in your own words, we're talking about how like you're creating your own rules now. Like, was that
Yeah.
a moment that you were like, oh, wait a second, I can do whatever I want here? Or was it like a slow thing? Like, what was that like?
That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. I think that it was probably a slow realization.
Yeah.
But when I left education, my one liner to people was, I love the art of teaching. I hated the job.
Yeah.
And that's really what it came down to. And so I guess I always had like an inherent sense that I'd always have an opportunity to teach. I just didn't know what it would look like. Um, so yeah, I don't know if there was like a moment where I realized like, oh, I can create anything. But what I can say is, one of the things that's so great about real estate is it will chew you up and spit you out. It will kick
Mm.
your butt. It's not an
Yeah.
easy go, and that's part of the magic of the whole thing. And along my journey after those first couple of years in real estate, I was so dejected. I was depressed. I was, felt like a complete failure. I felt like a failure in education because I left. I felt like a failure in real estate because I was losing
Mm.
money. Like it was a really dark time in my life. And at that moment, I came to a crossroads and I made a decision that it was time to move beyond these stories that I've been telling myself that are
Mm.
not serving me anymore. And it was in that moment that I started, digging into, I hired like a life coach. I started hiring business coaches. I started going to therapy. I started, getting into groups. I started going to seminars and like learning about personal growth and development, doing all of these things to improve my life. And it was a long that journey of self-discovery that I began to recognize, oh, there's more to this than, it's not, I'm more powerful than I knew. And so
Yeah.
I don't feel like I had one moment of realizations where I figured this out. It was more a commitment to just exploring and getting better as a human
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
ultimately led me to discover, what's really possible for me in my life.
Yeah, that's a really like perfect of explanation of the student becoming the teacher there of like,
Yeah.
okay, you yourself, I mean, one, when you were a middle school kid and then you like grew up to become the actual teacher, but then also when you're an adult and you're like, okay, something's gotta change here, and then you're seeking out all these resources, but now like you are the leader, you are the coach, and now you're like, all right, well, everyone else, I made a lot of mistakes. Let's get through it. Let me help you through it here. Do you feel like that's a little bit of just like the silver lining through some of those hard, dark times that you
Yeah.
had?
Well, you can't lead anybody through anything that you haven't experienced yourself, you
Yeah.
know? And in retrospect, and it took me a long time to get here, but in
Yeah.
retrospect, I look back at my life and I look at all of the imperfections of my life. And um, one of the quotes that I don't know if I heard it somewhere or if I came up with it a long time ago, but I've always said is life's little imperfections are what make life perfect.
Yeah.
And so, I look back at my relationship with my dad and my coaches in high school and on and on and on. And I used to have so much anger and resentment towards the way things had gone down.
Oh,
And now I look back on it and I'm like, that gives me the ability to understand somebody else who's going through something that's difficult. And so I actually see those as advantages. I mean, we can be crippled by our past, no matter how terrible it is, or we can use that as a stepping stone to make our life better and to make the life better for other people. And so, um, yeah, so I definitely see that as an advantage that my life was imperfect, and the journey was imperfect. And I went to those very dark places in my life and I know what it looks like. I know what it sounds like. I know what it feels like, and that helps me connect with people who are going through that and help them understand that it's not always going to be this way if you choose to do something different.
yeah. I am so curious in that role, in the workplace, in your leadership coaching role. What
Mhm.
kind of coach are you? Because there's all these different things. I grew up in Kansas City, so I my family's all been watching the Chiefs of the Kingdom documentary and just watched the one about Andy Reid, but then they're talking about how like he is different than, the Eagles coach and the Green Bay like everyone is different. Like I'm curious what your coaching like style is if you had to describe it yourself.
Yeah, so I know that there's a whole bunch of like, names for all the different styles. So I don't know what the
Right.
name of the style is, but Um, I believe that, and it's the same way that I parent, it's the same
Mm,
way I try to lead myself,
mm,
is that when we do for other people, in the sense of leadership, we cripple them, right? So, for
mm.
example, I tell my kids to do the dishes, they don't want to do it, and I go, fine, whatever, it's just easier, I'll do it myself. We've just crippled them, right? We have taken away an opportunity for them to learn how to fish for themselves. And
Yeah.
so that's my strategy is um, resiliency, resourcefulness, right? Those are two of my like just massive, massive values. In fact, so much so that, I really love bringing teachers onto my real estate team. So if there's any teacher real estate agents out there looking for a real estate team, call me. I'd love to talk to you. Because if you think about it, in fact, this is a perfect example. One of the agents on our team just texted me today, and he was asking me some questions about, hey, how do I connect with somebody in a different city? And I was like, hey, get on. We transitioned to a new platform in our company and all that. And I'm like, have you done that yet? And he's like, nope, I'll do it right now. He's a former teacher,
Mm,
right? So other people would have been like, well, can you show me how? Can we hop on a call? I'm not sure what to do next. Da, 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 da. When you're a teacher, I remember my very first year. I was 24 and I was in an inner city school. I had 12 students who spoke zero English. I don't speak Spanish at all. I had one kid who spoke Russian, and I didn't even know how to say hello in Russian, right?
Yeah.
And I'm 24. They handed me a small three-ring binder about this big, wasn't even a big binder, and they put that on my desk, and they were like, good luck. And I had to figure it out. I was there till 7, 8 o'clock every single day for the entire school year. I had kids lighting other kids' hair on. I mean, it was a disaster. I made it through. I survived. But that's the point.
Yeah.
Um, there was no turning back. I was responsible for 150 students, and I had to figure it out. The pressure was on,
Mm.
and my why was strong enough that I got to show up for these kids, that I pushed through the pain. That's resiliency and that's resourcefulness. And teachers are required to have that because they don't have someone holding their hand. And so I think I just look back at my journey as a teacher and I see how valuable those tools are. And so that's what I want to instill in other people. And so I guess long story, coming back to your
Yeah.
question, what's my leadership style? My leadership style is you're an adult and you are perfectly capable of standing on your own 2 feet. I will not hold your hand. I will guide you. I will give you all the resources you need. I will be here as a partner and as a friend and as whatever, but I'm not going to do the work for you. I
Yeah.
refuse. So I don't provide
Mhm.
any leads on my team.
Mhm.
Go get your own leads. Here's all the ways that you can do it. So I'm just really big onto pushing people to stand on their own 2 feet and be resourceful and resilient so that they can go create whatever in the heck they want to do, whether it's in real estate or parenting or whatever. What I try to teach is beyond real estate. Real estate is just the vehicle to teach what I really want to teach, which is
Yeah.
resiliency and resourcefulness, you know.
Yeah. In in listening to you talk about that, I keep thinking about my own experience. And one of my good friends, Ashley Heinzman, she and I are constantly talking about literally everything in life, but we often talk about work and building our own things, entrepreneurship, and all of this stuff. And something that always comes up is this realization. I've known her since junior high, this realization that like when we were kids, we thought things were black and white, and now we're like, everything's gray. Like it's all gray. And the reason why I thought about that is back in my days working in the corporate world when I was training and onboarding folks and, bringing people in professional development, bringing them up to new positions and stuff, I would always hit that point specifically with younger folks where they would be like, just how do I do this? What's the answer? Or they were like so afraid to make a mistake, to do something, get it wrong. And I'll be like, you're gonna fail, you're gonna make mistakes, but we all make mistakes. Do you just want to watch me make a bunch of mistakes sometimes? Like it, it's okay. We'll all figure it out. It's like, just let me know when you make a mistake and we'll figure it out together if you get stuck. But like, I hired you because you've got a smart brain and you're good at this. But part of it is also that the world is gray and like sometimes there is no right or wrong
Right.
answer. And it's just like, if you're going to do it, feel really good about doing it and back it up. And if you realize that you made a mistake or things didn't turn out super, like exactly the way you wanted it to, the cool part about it is that you can try something different. You can pivot. You can do something different. I mean, I guess that's kind of like what you did in life. Like you became a teacher and then you went into real estate and then you were doing
Yeah.
the fixers and now you're leading. It doesn't have to be this like black and white, you either fail or you win, and
Right.
that's kind of a hard lesson to learn in general,
Well,
I think.
I mean, there's a lot in that of what you were just saying, and it's all very, very true and relevant. I mean, first of all, failure is a mindset.
Yeah.
Uh, I thought it would go A and it went B. It's only a failure when we place the meaning of failure on it. It is a
Yeah.
result, but it's not negative or positive until we put a meaning on it, attach a meaning to it. So we have full autonomy over whether we ever fail or don't fail. I saw myself as a failure and it was killing me,
Mhm.
you know? And when I changed my mindset around that, I now can get my teeth kicked in and see it as an opportunity. I just had a
Mhm.
big team I was trying to bring over, and they went with somebody else, and it was brutal. It happened when I was in Italy, and I had lots of time out there to like sit and kind of be in it. And it took me 2 days to get over it, because I finally realized like, okay, this is a huge opportunity because I think that if they would have come over this and this and this would have happened, and da 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 da. Anyway, I chose to put a frame of reference around it that allowed me to move forward through it. And it wasn't a failure. It was just another stepping stone towards becoming who it is that I want to become. And so, I think that a lot of people get frozen by this idea of failure. And one of my mentors always says to fail with velocity, like
Mm.
just hurry up and screw it up so that you can get better and you can learn. Because if I get 100 at bats and I only hit it, 3 times, and you get up there and take one swing and miss it, who's in a better position? I missed 97 times. You missed
Mhm.
once. you know so how do you frame that? To me, the person who missed 97 times is better than the person that missed once, because I learned a hell of a lot more in the 97 misses than you learned in your one. Even if you hit it, you went 1 for 1, you're batting 100,
Mhm.
1,000, great, good for you. But it's not enough at bats to really like move the needle. And so I think that it's really important for new entrepreneurs to understand that failure is the business.
Mhm.
That's the business.
Yeah.
Hurry
Yeah.
up and fail. Stop worrying about it and just fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to get. There's only one way out, and that's through. You got to fail.
Yeah. If you're not failing, you're not trying.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I wonder also when you're thinking about that and like your leadership style and, coaching people through this, like you're gonna fail, you're gonna make mistakes, it's gonna be fine. It also kind of reminds me a little bit of like the situation that you were in, that you were just describing about that classroom of people that weren't speaking any English, and you've got Spanish and German speakers, and you're just like, okay, how do you figure it out? Because I imagine in the pieces that I know about you that you're like you're going to build a little community there, the way that you're kind of like building a community in the things that you do right now. Like, one, are you going about it the same way that you did back then? And like, what are those lessons learned? Like, what's your take on like bringing those people together that are, I mean, even if you go to those kids, like they when in square one, they're not communicating with each other. No one's communicating with each other except for all those Spanish speakers that can't communicate with you. And but
Right.
like, how do you go about like just starting that, like, all right, we're in this together here.
Yeah. Um, so when I was teaching, I would say I wasn't very skilled at that yet.
Mm,
It is a skill, right? Some
yeah,
people kind of have a natural,
yeah,
it seems like a natural ability to communicate better and those kinds of things, but really it's all learned behavior. And so I would say that I wasn't, put me today and back in that same situation, it's going to look very different, right? Which makes
yeah.
sense. But, today with my team, you know, real estate's tough right now, right?
Mm,
At least in Denver Metro, Colorado, it's a soft market. It's a slight buyer's market, if you ask me. And so right now, agents are struggling to get business. And
yeah.
so it's a great opportunity to, um, well, quite frankly, part of it's a great opportunity to thin the herd, right? And
Mm,
prune.
hmm.
But most of our people are sticking it out, and I think that
Yeah,
they recognize that we are in this together. And I try to promote that. Like, listen, you're not the only one who's struggling right now. My business isn't where I want it to be. Yours isn't, hers isn't, his isn't. So, we're in this together. So the question isn't, you know, um, the question that we have to ask in times of struggle like this is, what are we going to do about it?
yeah,
Period. It is what it is. So let's lean on one another. Let's recognize that we're all struggling. Let's find the people who are doing good things, and let's imitate what they're doing. Let's take ideas, let's play with new things until it starts working again. Because if we can just weather the storm, eventually the
mm,
market will turn and you're going to be poised to be on the top of the mountain. But that doesn't come without, walking up the dang thing. So
yeah,
that's what I try to promote with my team is that we're in it together.
yeah,
And that doesn't mean it's easy. And if you go over there, it's not going to be any different. At least here you've got a group of people who are working together and collaborating together, and we get it. Um, so what are you going to do about it now? Like, here's where we are. What
Yeah.
are you going to do about it? You can quit, go quit, fine,
Yeah.
or you can, push through the pain, or you can move and go somewhere else to a different brokerage and hope that solves your problem. It doesn't really matter, but don't complain, don't whine, don't, oh, woe is me. Okay,
Yeah.
but here you are. Now what?
Yeah.
So that's how I try to frame it. And I feel like the thing that I like about that is that I feel like there's some clarity around it to where people are either like, screw that, or I'm on board. Like
Hmm.
it kind of delineates the path,
Yeah.
right? And so the people who are in, and the people
Yeah.
who are out are out. And to me, those are both wins.
Yeah. That part about like the people that are in and the people that are out in it. I thought of it also when you were talking about like, there's a little bit of the challenge that thins the herd. Yesterday I was just interviewing a woman who owns a sustainable candle company, so completely different field than you're in. But one of the things that she was talking about is her lessons learned was like be slow to hire but quick to fire. But that's not necessarily a bad thing that you're quick to fire. That doesn't necessarily have to be a negative or that, you're a hard boss to work for. Like, there's actually a piece of compassion that's in that, that's like, oh, you're not the right fit for this job, for this company, for whatever it is, this isn't a right fit for you or for me, and that's okay. And so let's just have that conversation. And likely the other person's also like, you're right, I'm struggling here, and it's
Right.
because I'm not into this. I don't want to step up to the challenge because really I'm interested in something else. And it reminds me of like back when I was a manager of people. I remember talking to my own supervisor about someone who had resigned and was taking another job. And I was talking about it in such a positive thing. And I was like, so and so got this really great job at another company. She's going to be in HR. She's not going to be in research administration anymore. It's a great opportunity and I'm really excited about it. And she was like, why are you so excited to lose a team member? And I was like, because I view being a supervisor is much bigger than this job, and that's a great move for her. And maybe that means that that woman's going to come back in 10 years and work in our or lead our HR team with the skills
Right.
that she's going to learn over there. And like, it just was such a different perspective, but it kind of sounds a little bit like what you're talking about. And even it, again, I'm going to parallel to your own experience of like, at some point you had to say no to teaching to be like, hey, I'm going to teach in a different way. Like,
Yeah.
and that is okay. Again, I'm taking us way far away from this outline that I sent you, but it just sounds
That's
so,
all right.
like it's I think it's so interesting, and I think it's something that like as leaders in the candle company, in the real estate company, in the research company, or the nonprofit world, like we're all leaders and we're all like supervising people at some point, and like you're kind of doing a disservice for people if you keep trying to be like, all right, you got to just power through, you got to be here, when maybe they could thrive somewhere else.
Right. Hey, you're doing both people a disservice and sometimes a kick in the butt is what people need. I
Mhm.
remember one time I was so when I graduated college, I decided I was going to take a year off and I was going to go live with my buddy in Hawaii. His
Yeah.
mom was the principal of a high school, and so I was going to teach summer school and then I was going to substitute teach and I was going to stay out there for a year.
Yeah.
I was only out there for about 3 months and realized I didn't really like living in Hawaii. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's a conversation for another time. Anyway, ended up coming back. It was a cool experience, but wanted to come home. So anyway, ended up getting a job building fences. And this
Oh,
company was one of the companies that would encircle like an entire community of houses. So, I mean, we were
wow.
building
Yeah.
miles and miles and miles of houses. And so me and one other guy would show up. We'd have a truck full of lumber, and there would just be posts, just miles of them,
Hmm.
build fence. And but I remember the very first day, I thought we did pretty good. I worked hard, whatever. I'd worked on a lot of construction in my life. I thought we did okay.
Yeah.
And my boss pulls me into the office at the end of the day, and he's like, "What you guys got done today, you should have had done before lunch." And I was like, excuse me? And he's
Got
like,
it.
if you can't step up to what the expectation is, we're going to have to let you go. And I've never been fired from a job. And
Yeah.
so for me, I was like, well, all right, watch this, and he was right. We were able to do a lot more. I was working slow and that kind of stuff, and so we were able to meet his standards. And by the time I quit that job about 8 months later, he was just like, man, I know you got to go teach and do your thing, but I got to be honest, you're one of the best employees I've ever had. And I was like, oh damn,
Mm.
and so I tell that story because really all it is he challenged me.
Yeah.
He said, "You are not doing a good enough job. I think we're going to have to let you go." And then he gave me another little opportunity, and I stepped up to the challenge. And so sometimes, you have those conversations with people. And had he not had that conversation and he just went home and told his wife what a piece of crap I was and like, this guy's terrible, he's never going to amount to anything. Well, guess what? I would have kept doing the exact same thing. But it was in that challenge that I stepped up to the plate and was able to do better. And so, I think one thing that I'm really learning as a leader is communication is so important, and people don't want to be placated.
Mm.
Do not want to be placated. And so sometimes it's hard to have those conversations with people and say the things you think it, and you're like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. If you really want to impact somebody else's life, you have to tell them what they need to hear sometimes, not just what they want to hear.
Yeah.
And you are failing that other person by holding back in the right circumstances.
Hmm.
You're failing them by not speaking your mind and speaking clearly and concisely. So another thing is communication. Like if you're trying to lead people, communication is like the top skill, right? You've got to become a master communicator. That's it's to me, it's critical.
Yeah. It again, and going back to you talking about how like real estate is the vehicle for what you're doing as a coach. And again, I probably should have just recorded this part of our conversation, but when we started and I was like, what should your title be? Because what we're talking about is so much more broad and like human connection and like coaching people at that's like well beyond just real estate, but like that is your title is like real estate. And I loved the way you explained that real estate is the vehicle for what you're doing and like helping people like reach their full potential and all of those kinds of things because it's sometimes those titles that we have are a little bit like misleading or like narrow in comparison to what you're actually doing, which is just like, hey, we're humans here. We're gonna help you thrive in whatever that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like for me, I I'm not really motivated by money. I'm motivated by money to the extent that I know I need it to survive,
Yeah,
and I know that the more money I have, the more impact I can have, and it also allows me to take trips to Italy and do cool shit,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but what I have discovered in my life in the pursuit of money and otherwise is that life is much more fun
Mm.
when you're making the world a better place. There was one, my dad, as imperfect as he was a good father. He did teach me some very important lessons, one of which is you always leave things better than the way you found them. And
Mm.
I can't remember one time it was like a wrench or something, and I left it somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, son, you always leave things better than the way you found them, right?
Yeah.
And that just always really stuck to me. And so for me, that's kind of how I see my vision for my life in this world. I want to leave the world better off than it was when I found it. It may not be perfect, but I'm going to do everything that I can to make it better. And so that's why I do what I do. I just happen to do it through the vehicle of real estate and helping people see their own potential through that vehicle.
Have you always had that mentality of it's not all about the money? I asked that specifically because I I have been so excited in working on this Capitalism for Good project, and part of it is the nature of like the types of folks that I'm seeking out in order to talk to. But every single person that I've spoken to has brought that up organically in a way to be like, it's not about the money. yes, we all need it. Like we know that we have bills to pay. We know that we've got to like pay paychecks and all of those kinds of things, but like the focus is elsewhere. And that was never my experience being an employee most of the time in my earlier career. That was never the impression that I had. And I was I mean, it's so heartwarming to me to find all of these folks that are just like, yeah, it's about the mission or it's about the people or it's about the solution to the problem. And of course, like money helps us do the thing that we've set out to do, but it's not that's not the leading factor. And I wonder, have you always had that mentality, or is that something that evolved kind of with experience for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, in my childhood, I've always been interested in people, I guess, and I was always the person that was just like, "Hey, you seem cool. Let's play together." You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But it just never really played well in elementary school and middle school and high school. I never really fit in, and so I feel like it really, I started to put a bunch of masks on and like cover that side of
Mm,
myself up.
mhm.
And I realized one day that I needed to be successful to feel good about
Yeah.
myself. And success looked like being the best teacher that I could be. And I feel like I was a damn good teacher,
Yeah.
But then I quit and kind of felt like a failure. And then I got into real estate and failed with that. And then I finally
Mm,
decided that, if I, you know, I was just hell bent at that point when I hit that crossroads. I'm like, I'm going to be financially successful. I didn't say financially. I said I'm going to be successful. And in
right.
my mind, it was financial, right? And I think a lot of people, that's the vision that they see when they hear the word success. But
Mhm.
that couldn't be further from the truth. It's just an aspect of it. But I needed to go down that journey, and I did. I live in a beautiful house now, my dream home, really, and
Yay.
made all the money and all that stuff. And yet I'm standing on the mountaintop, absolutely miserable, working my butt off, not spending enough time with the kids, frustrated, all of these kinds of things. And that's when I realized, okay, cool. Glad I climbed that mountain.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should. Um, Inherently I knew it wasn't about the money, but
Mhm.
also I knew I needed to make the money to prove something to myself. And so
Yeah.
it was a very valuable journey for me to
Yeah.
take. But then I just proved to myself, yeah, 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 right. The money's cool. I
Yeah.
like it. It was fun. But at the end of the day, it's not going to get me up and get me excited in the morning. It's a tool.
Hmm.
It's just a tool. So you've got the vehicle of real estate, and then you build tools in that vehicle, right? And one of
Yeah.
those tools that you can build within the vehicle of real estate is money,
Yeah.
and it's just a tool. But ultimately, to me, success means that I'm making money, I'm helping other people make money, I'm helping people change their lives. I'm
Hmm.
constantly growing and getting better. They're constantly growing and getting better. I'm creating high functioning adults who are able to stand on their own 2 feet and create whatever they want in real estate, outside of real estate, whatever. To me, that's
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
Leaving the world better than the way that I had found it, that's success. Money is just an aspect of that.
Yeah. Is it safe to say that you would consider yourself one of those like lifelong learners that's fueled by the challenges? I
Yeah.
mean, your story alone about the fence post is like, failure is what you make it to be, and you could have heard that sentence from your boss to be like, do you sh what you did in a day you should have done by lunch, and you could have heard that as like, okay, well, this isn't for me, but instead you heard that as it sounds like a challenge that all right, I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that comes from going back to this idea that we were talking about earlier about how the challenges in our life shape us. When I was a little kid, I was perfectly fine laying in the grass and just looking at the clouds and just like I've lived with my head in the clouds. And literally and figuratively, that got beat out of me when I was younger. And so I had a learned behavior that I needed to be successful. I needed to be more engaged. I needed to pay attention more. I needed to be more organized. I needed to do all of these things. And so looking back on that when I was, in my 20s, I was resentful that everybody kind of beat this out of me,
Hmm.
right? and
Hmm.
they killed my child inside of me,
Yeah.
right? And now
Yeah.
later on, I recognize that it created a shell. It created like this like honey badger side of me, right? That
Hmm.
just that what? No,
Yeah.
I'll show you, right? And
Yeah.
so it created this explosive side that, as at a 45 years old, now I feel like I can contain that and I can let the honey badger out when it's appropriate and I can keep it contained when it's not appropriate. And so those
Yeah.
challenges that I faced when I was younger actually made me stronger by, giving me some spikes and making me a little rough around the edges at times and a little resentful and like it gave
Yeah.
me that edge so that like I'm ready to fight. Like I'm not going to back down, right? But
Yeah.
so anyway, so but as I've gotten older, I've learned how to like blend it, which is also a very important part because all honey badger is probably not a good thing either.
I can't relate that to that more. I often say that like I was probably a nightmare to parent as a child because anytime that I am told no, and still to this day as an adult, when someone says the word no, I just hear like not right now or not in that way. And again, that's just a challenge to me to be like, all right, I can figure out a different way to get what I want out of this, which is
Yeah.
probably it's so frustrating as a parent to be like, okay, well, I guess you're gonna do whatever you want here, but that's not safe or whatever that is that they were trying to like steer me out of. But
Right.
I am also curious. So going back to like Dan as a kid, like head in the clouds kind of thing, like what's your adult version of the head in the clouds? Like what's in the future? What are your dream? Where are you looking to go in the future?
Yeah. So I haven't really thought about it this way, but every morning I have downtime.
Mm,
That's my thinking time.
yeah.
So I slam some water, grab a cup of coffee, and then I sit on the couch. And we've got a big bay window that looks out at the Rocky Mountains, and I just kind of sit and think. And that's my time. That's my head in the clouds time. My mind just kind of drifts and things pop up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that time I have found to be exceptionally important. If I don't have that, I feel off for the whole day.
Yeah.
Um, but so that's one way that I get in touch with that. I haven't, like I said, I haven't thought about it that way, but I think that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But my vision for the future is I want to build a playground for adults. I'm already actually starting to look at some land in the mountains and stuff like that, and literally build a giant playground for adults. Because what I've found is that when I'm shooting pool with my friends or playing games or sitting on the bench at softball or whatever, and we're just sitting there talking, but we're in play mode,
Yeah.
the barriers come down and you'll
Yeah.
hear people say things that they wouldn't normally say and they open up in different ways. And I started to realize like there's something to this, like this play. And then I started thinking, well, how could that affect father-son relationships? And how could that affect couples relationships and mother-daughter and family relationships and then business relationships? And so that's my big vision. That's where I want to go, and that one definitely taps into the playful side, the kids
Uh-huh.
side. Like let's just get out and play and
Yeah.
discover about life through the act of playing. And so that is my main driver, especially for the money side of things because I need money to make that happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is important to me. Once again, it's as
Yeah.
important to me as I need it to be to create what I really want.
Yeah. I was also thinking when you were describing like your quiet time in your house with the bay window looking over the Rockies, like that goes to you have your dream house, but it's not necessarily about the dream house, I imagine, but it's giving you the life that you need. And now you have this beautiful time built into your mornings, looking at something so cool that your house and your money gave you. And same with like the adult playground. Like I think it's so easy as adults to skip out on that in this pursuit of success or productivity or sometimes it's just like busyness, like families and life, like you have all of these responsibilities and things to do, but it's important to be able to have that play piece
Yeah.
to build community and to build relationships. And like you were talking about, like conversations are sometimes easier to be done when you're like up in moving. One of the greatest things that I ever did in my adult life is start taking my therapy sessions while I was out on a walk. And I could be like, oh, I can just like let my mind go when my body is moving and I can get so much more out of it. And all it took is one time I was in person and my therapist was like, hey, do you want to go for a walk? And I was like, I sure do. And then it was just like it was such a life-changing moment. But I talked to friends who were like avid rock climbers or like tennis players or something. And they're like, well, yeah, that's what my friends do. And we connect and we don't talk deeply when we're just sitting next to each other. But when we're climbing a rock wall or when we're playing tennis or whatever it is, then yeah, we'll talk about anything.
Yeah,
Like we
exactly.
miss that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I'm so excited to hear about that. Okay, I again, I could have taken us down 12 million different rabbit holes here, but I have to be cognizant of time. So my last question that I have for absolutely everyone is who is another business or leader that you see out there in the world that's doing things the right way? And it could be anything from an old boss of yours, a mentor, a client, someone you're a customer of, absolutely anyone that you think deserves a shout out.
Yeah. You know, man, there's a lot of people that come to mind.
Okay.
So I came to the company that I work for is called eXp.
Hmm.
And I came to this company for a lot of reasons. But one thing I had not expected when I got here was the level of support that I got from the people who are in my organization who came before me, right?
Yeah.
And they've become mentors for me. And man, who do I pick? So Leo Pareja, he's the CEO of eXp. He is just a visionary. But on top of that, he's so like just blatantly cares about what is happening with the agents and in their life. And he truly wants to create something that improves their life. And he's got a giant platform to be able to do that with. And so he has a
Yeah.
big impact on that front. Another guy, Jesse Zagorski, he's a mentor of mine. He's with EXP as well. He runs a big organization, and I'm part of that. And you know, he has a whole website, the Agent Collective, that is just packed with amazing content from nuts and bolts of how to start a real estate business to mindset training to interviewing like amazing people. I mean, it's just on and on and on. And his vision is to improve the lives of people through the vehicle of real estate. And so, you know, it's people like that. It reminds me that there's people who really are super powerful and better at what they do than I am that are trying to make the world a better place. And that just like motivates me to continue doing it. And yeah, I mean, that's just two. I could go on and on. Yeah.
Does sound a lot like the things that you yourself are doing. And like you're kind of I mean, I don't know if following in their footsteps is the right way to describe it, but like when you were first talking about Leo, I was like, my next question was like, oh, I lied. I actually have another question, and it's how do we have more Leos and more Dans in the world? But maybe that is how do we have more Leos and Dans and Jessies in the world here?
Yeah. I think that it goes back to this idea of not being afraid to fail.
Mm,
That's how we get more of them.
yeah.
I don't ever intend to be Leo or Jesse, but I do intend to follow in their footsteps. But I'm going to do it Dan's way,
Yeah.
and he's going to do it Jesse's way, and he's going to do it Leo's way, and that's great, right? We need more people talking about this stuff. So I guess it's twofold. Number one, I had imposter syndrome early on in my
Mm,
journey. And I finally realized that it's not that I'm saying anything that's earth-shattering or amazing. It's that I'm saying the stuff that has been said for thousands of years in Dan's voice. And my
mm,
voice is going to resonate with certain people. Your voice is going to resonate with certain people. Leo's voice is going to resonate with certain people. So if everybody was talking about how to make the world a better place, if everybody was talking about how to leave it better than it was when they found it, the world would be a better place. And so I'm just going to do my part to make the world a better place. And that's it, right? So no fear of, oh, am I good enough or am I that it
yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it my way to the best of my ability. Good enough is irrelevant. I'm just going to
Yeah.
do it. So get rid of this fear of failure, fail with velocity, and just do your best to make the world a better place. That's the ticket right there, if you ask me.
I feel like that's also a mic drop moment right there. Perfect way to leave it. Dan, I cannot thank you enough for doing this. This was so great. Like I said, could have taken us down a gajillion different rabbit holes. There's so much like wisdom in your experience and things. And I can't wait to one, see what you do next, and two, visit that adult playground once you get that off the ground. That sounds
Working on it. Well, thank
so
you.
much. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you as well.